of American doctors say they will not participate in the Obamacare exchange. A disaster. With now Dr. Zeke Emanuel, one of the architects of the Affordable Health Care Act and author of the brand new big book, Reinventing American Health Care. So, if almost half of the doctors opt out, I don't see how this possibly works.
First of all, doctors will not opt out, not half of them. That says they won't participate in the exchange. It's not doctors who participate in the exchange. It's insurance companies who participate in the exchange.
But if they don't take the insurance companies...
The doctors will take who's in the exchange because they have to. There's a large number of people who will be there. Furthermore...
Wait, I'm confused.
Let me just...
I'm confused. I didn't get to read your book, but your book explains a lot of this.
Yes.
But I'm confused. From what I understand from my own personal doctor, who is going to opt out, they're going to set up boutique services, all right, many American doctors, and they're going to charge people to a certain fee a year to see them. They're not going to accept any insurance, as many doctors don't now. This is what I think may happen. So the pool of doctors then in America shrinks. You're telling me that's not going to happen?
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't think?
Look, you don't know the other. You're just making speculation.
No, 44% say they're not going to participate in the insurance.
In the exchange, but
right.
they don't actually participate in the exchange. That's a misnomer, and the question is a bad question.
They're not going to take Obamacare insurance.
They will take Obamacare insurance. Very few doctors can go and just take people who pay cash because health care is expensive. The vast majority, 98% of Americans, cannot simply pay cash for their health care.
They can take certain kinds of health insurance, as you know.
Right.
All right. Now,
but look,
go ahead.
When you do poll doctors, especially young doctors, the under 40s, 60% of them actually support Obamacare and like it. And those who have actually begun to transform their practice, so they're really focusing on keeping people healthy, they're focusing on people with chronic illness and keeping them out of the hospital, they actually like that practice better than the current
practice. You're generalizing,
practice.
But there are about 800,000 practicing physicians in this country right now.
That's correct.
If 44% bail, if this survey is correct...
We're not going to have 44% bail out of the system.
Deloitte also says that a lot of doctors are not going to get caught up in this. They're just not going to do it. So if they do, and it cuts down to 500,000 or 550, it's going to be a problem. Now, when I travel around, I travel a lot of places, all right, I see these clinics open up, and I'm sure you do too,
yeah.
All right, the health care clinics, and they're like walk-in clinics. You get something out of it? Come on in. And they're staffed by physician's assistants and nurse practitioners and things like that. I think that's where this Affordable Health Care Act is going, into that kind of treatment. Am I wrong?
That's going to be one part of a complex...
I think it's a growing...
It's going to be one part of a complex part of the healthcare system. So if your kid has a sore throat and you want to find out if it's strep throat, or your kid has what appears to be an ear infection, you want to find out if it's otitis media, you really don't need to go to the pediatrician.
Do you go to these clinics?
You can go to these clinics. These clinics, because of electronic records, which are now being widely used because of the healthcare reform, they'll send it to your doctor, they'll send it to your health system, and so we'll have a much more seamless operation. In fact, CVS is expanding those kind of clinics. Walmart's expanding.
They're all getting into that business. But there aren't any doctors. They're not doctors.
Well, you don't need a doctor for every part of your health care.
You don't need a doctor for everything. But if I want a strep throat diagnosis, I don't want Lenny, who just came out of the community college. I mean, you know,
excuse me, but those are nurse practitioners. It's not Lenny out of a community college. And it is just putting a swab back there and getting a strep throat
assessment. Are you worried? Say you had... VD, I think STD. I'm sure you don't, but say
please don't insult me.
No, I'm not. But say you had it. I'm being generic. It's you. Say you had it, or I had it. Okay? And so that in your medical record, and then all of a sudden you have all of these transfers of electronic medical records all over the place. I mean, that's devastating.
We have laws to protect the privacy of people.
Kind of like the IRS thing?
Listen, Bill, you know, your Fox News claimed, we're going to have breaches of the exchanges. We haven't had a single breach of the exchange.
Because they're not up yet. They're not up yet. They're not running yet.
That's not true. The exchange has been up. You have just
you're not worried about that?
You're just sowing fear with no grounds. No, I am not worried about that.
You're not worried about that?
Lots of hospitals and doctors have had electronic health records, and we've had no such breach. You're just sowing fear with no factual basis.
Listen, you know me. I'm afraid of everything. Say TMZ offers somebody like $5,000 to get a famous person's medical records. That unheard of? That unheard of?
Look,
oh, come on! Is that unheard of? You know it happens all the time.
They have high security, and everyone is well aware of this, and they are taking it seriously. And if they did, they would have already offered that for electronic health records, and we would have seen the breach.
I'm
are
a little scared about
sowing fear with no basis. You can't even cite one example.
Because it's not up yet. This time next year, well, I hope it doesn't happen.
Electronic health records, now 80% of doctors have them, and there's not been that kind of breach.
All right.
You're simply sowing fear, and you know it. And there's not a fact here.
I'm not sowing fear. I'm actually doing my job, and that's asking the hardest questions I can think of.
And there's not a single case, Mr. O'Reilly, of those medical records being breached for things like STDs or a very famous Hollywood star's
I hope it doesn't happen, but with a lot of stuff going on here, you know, the NSA, they're listening to your conversations, Doctor. They have all of yours. I know where they are, too. They're in Utah. So now people will know about your book, Reinventing American Health.